Your agent pipeline failed because the model did not just write code. It also became the reviewer, test runner, project manager, and traffic controller. Welcome to Fluid Coding and AI. Today, we are comparing Microsoft Conductor with an LLM-routed multi-agent workflow for code review, implementation, and verification. The question is not whether agents can help. It is whether the route through your engineering process should be decided by a model every time. Here is the practical answer up front. For known engineering workflows, a deterministic graph is usually the better default. Use models where judgment matters, reviewing code, ranking risk, explaining failures, proposing fixes, but keep orchestration, context flow, shell execution, retry limits, and approval gates explicit. That is the line Conductor is trying to draw. The best version is not anti-agent, it is anti-mystery. If the process is predictable, the workflow should be reviewable before it runs. Microsoft announced Conductor as deterministic orchestration for multi-agent AI workflows. It is a YAML-first command line tool where a workflow declares agents, prompts, models, inputs, outputs, and routing logic. That sounds less magical than a manager agent deciding what to do next. That is the point. The workflow lives in source control. The root conditions can be inspected. The prompts and models can be reviewed in a pull request. For engineering teams, that makes the agent system feel closer to continuous integration than a chat transcript. The key technical detail is routing. Conductor uses templates and expression evaluation. The first matching condition wins. That routing layer is not another LLM call asking, who should act next? So if the workflow says failed tests go back to the implementer, that branch is a rule, not a suggestion. This does not make the model output deterministic. A reviewer agent can still miss something. But it does make the control flow deterministic, and that is the part teams need to debug. For code review, the shape is already familiar. Start with intake. Collect the changed files and classify risk. Run script steps for tests, linting, type checks, or dependency checks. Send the code to parallel reviewer agents for correctness, security, maintainability, and coverage. Merge the findings. Ask a human to approve the fix plan. Then implement, verify, and review again. That loop should not be rediscovered from scratch on every pull request. It should be encoded once, inspected, and improved over time. Conductor script steps matter because code review is not only language reasoning. A script step can run a shell command, capture standard output, standard error, and the exit code, and even parse JSON output. That means PyTest, linters, type checkers, dependency scanners, or custom detectors can become branch conditions in the workflow. The model can explain a failure. The workflow decides whether failure blocks progress. That separation is boring in the best possible way. The second big issue is context. In shared group chat agent systems, the conversation history can become the workspace. That can be useful, but it also spreads assumptions, stale details, and irrelevant output across the team. Conductor syntax describes context modes such as accumulate, snapshot, and minimal. The point is not that less context is always better. The point is that each agent should receive the context it needs on purpose. In a review pipeline, context is evidence. Passing it around casually is a design risk. LLM-routed orchestration is not a straw man. It is powerful when the problem shape is unknown. OpenAI's Agents SDK describes patterns where agents can hand off to specialists. AutoGen's selector group chat can use a model to pick the next speaker. Microsoft's agent framework supports both deterministic and agent-based speaker selection. That flexibility matters for incident investigation, ambiguous debugging, research, and customer support. Sometimes you really do not know the next step until the system discovers something new. The trade-off is that flexibility has a cost. An orchestrator model spends tokens deciding steps that may be obvious. It can route differently from run to run. It can bury the reason for a decision inside conversation history. And if every specialist sees too much shared context, one noisy assumption can influence the rest of the review. Anthropic's agent guidance makes the useful distinction here. Workflows use predefined code paths, while agents dynamically direct their own process. For a known review loop, predefined paths are a feature. There is another trap: confusing model benchmarks with workflow reliability. OpenAI's GPT-522 Thinking Launch Materials reports strong software engineering scores, including 55.6% on SWE Bench Pro and 80% on SWE Bench Verified. OpenAI also warns that SWE Bench Verified is increasingly contaminated and recommends SWE Bench Pro for frontier evaluation. The fair takeaway is narrow. Frontier models are strong enough that workflow design now matters more. The benchmark does not prove Conductor beats agent routing. Human gates are where this becomes governance, not just automation. Conductor supports human-in-the-loop gates that pause execution and route based on a human choice. In a code review pipeline that maps cleanly to approve the fix plan, request a revision, or stop. That fits the broader review reality. GitHub Copilot Code Review can leave comments, but GitHub's docs say it does not approve or request changes. AI Review can assist the decision. It should not quietly become the decision. The strongest architecture is a hybrid. Let an LLM classify risk, but root on the structured classification. Let reviewer agents find issues, but let tests and policy checks decide whether the workflow advances. Let an implementer propose a patch, but require a human gate before risky changes. Let a final reviewer compare the original finding, the patch, and the verification output. Known process, graph. Unknown judgment, model. Critical action, test, or human gate. Choose Conductor-style orchestration when the workflow is known, the team needs auditability, or the same process should run across many pull requests. Choose LLM-routed orchestration when the task is exploratory, the next step is genuinely unknown, or speed of prototyping matters more than repeatability. And skip both when a script, a CI job, or one reviewer prompt is enough. YAML can encode a good process, but it can also encode a bad one. The value comes from making the process explicit enough to improve. So the verdict is this: for repeatable engineering workflows, do not make the model the traffic controller by default. Make the route visible. Make context flow explicit. Make tests real branch conditions. Make human approval a first-class step. Then spend model calls on the work where reasoning actually matters. Conductor is interesting because it treats agent orchestration like something engineers should be able to review. For code review pipelines, that is the right instinct. If this helped clarify where deterministic workflows beat agent routing, like the video and subscribe to Fluid Coding and AI. The useful future is not one giant agent making every decision. It is engineering systems that put model judgment in the right places, with enough structure to trust the result.